And a very good morning to you. This is the program The Light in the Dark on Faith FM. I'm John Weeks and I've got Peter Watts in the studio today, and we are broadcasting live on in Melbourne or Ringwood, and it's Thursday, the 14th of August. Gee, time flies. So we got an hour of a very interesting topic. It's part 4 of the topic, Did We Really Evolve? And we'll be talking about the flood. But before we do, Peter, what have you been up to in the last week or so, or even in the future?
Or in the last 5 minutes. Good to see you again, John, and good to be with the listeners once more on Light in the Dark. I've been presenting a series on the sanctuary under investigation at Warburton each Saturday morning, and we'll be there again this Saturday at 11 a.m. But this Saturday evening, I just wanted to talk a little bit about a series that we're doing in Wodonga. So if you are in the Albury-Wodonga area this Saturday night, why not come along, 6 p.m. There'll be a light meal followed by 2 presentations in the series, Is God for Real? And Does It Really Matter? What is the evidence for the existence of God, and what does that mean for you and for those you care about? So if you're in the Wodonga, Albury area, this coming Saturday night, 6 p.m, Is God for Real? I'll tell you where the address is for that. It's going to be at Border Christian College. That's 24 Ava Avenue, Thurgoona, New South Wales 2640. So that's 24 Ava Avenue, Thurgoona, New South Wales. And we would be delighted to see you there at Border Christian College for Is God for Real, 6 p.m. this Saturday.
Fantastic. I would have loved to be up there, actually.
Feel free. Drive up, John.
I don't drive. Don't have a car.
Catch the train. My son sometimes comes down by train from there.
Oh, is there a train? Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, okay.
There's an option. I could pick you up.
Yeah. Got to find me accommodation, though.
That's true.
That could be tricky. All right, today's topic. Anyway, let's explore this. This is part 4, and we got some incredible responses last week on the text line, so we'd love to get that feedback again. The text line is 0488 880 831. Let me repeat that. 0488 880-831. I've got the screen in front of me for any text messages, and we will respond to them as well. Peter.
Okay, so we're in the midst of a mini-series here on Light in the Dark, and the mini-series is called Did We Really Evolve? And today we're going to be talking about the flood. And when we talk about the conversation around creation and evolution, the flood, it makes a big difference, because when we talked a little before about the fact that the Bible says that, God says that the creation was good, very good, but it didn't remain that way, because people wonder, they say, well, how come the world's in such a mess? How come, the world is the way that it is? If God is good and God made everything perfect, how could it be that it is now in a fallen state? And that's really the answer. There was a departure, the separation. Adam and Eve made a choice which separated them from God and separated them from God's plan for their life. So God intended for them to live forever in paradise. That's a nice thought, isn't it, John?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That is still God's plan, right? That is still God's plan, but we are in that period of time where we are in a battle between good and evil. Mm-hmm. There is an enemy, and that battle takes place here on earth, but it also takes place between our ears. And we are always tempted to make a decision to move away from God. But God wants us to make a decision to move closer to Him. He wants to be reunited and re-engaged with us in relationship. And what happened with the flood is important because it helps us to understand something of the history of the world. So God created the world perfect. Through Adam and Eve's rebellion and their separation from God, that affected the whole creation. Thorns and thistles it will grow, the Bible says. And things started to change. We started to change, and the natural world changed, until you come to the time of Noah, which is about 1,700 years after creation, something like that. And the world has become so corrupt and so violent that God has to act in judgment in order to preserve any kind of sanity or righteousness or truth. And, sometimes, John, I think about this from the perspective of judgment. Some people will say, oh, God's just too judgmental. They'll look at something like the flood, or they'll look at Sodom and Gomorrah, or many other instances where God acts in judgment, or the 10 plagues that fell on Egypt, or whatever it may be. If God acts in judgment, people say, oh, God's a bit too severe. And then, but more increasingly, you'll see today people crying out, what's God doing? Yeah. The world's such a mess. What's God doing? Why isn't God doing something? So for some people, God can't win, right? Because if he doesn't, if he extends mercy and says, I'm going to be long suffering, I'm going to be patient, I'm going to let these people work it out and try and come to their senses.
Yep.
Then people say, what's God doing? Why doesn't God get involved? What's he waiting for? But then as soon as God acts, it's like, God's far too judgmental for me. So God can't win. But God's timing is always perfect, John. It's always perfect. And so God is patient. He is kind. And as I said, there was 1,700 years between the fall and the flood. And so what you have is God patiently waiting for mankind to realize that we need God. The biggest secret of my life, John, is I need God.
Oh, absolutely.
I need God in my life. Life is better with God. Doesn't mean it's always going to be a bed of roses.
No.
No, we live on the battlefield, and good times and bad times come to all people. But how we react to that depends largely on our connection with God and how we allow God to work within us. And I've always found that good times or bad times, it's always better with God than it is without. And I've lived half my life without God and half my life with him, and I can tell you I wouldn't want to live without him.
Yeah, likewise. And in the last 13 years, that really came to my forefront of my mind.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So we come to the time of the flood, and why are we studying this at all? Let's talk about something Jesus said. We're going to go to the New Testament, which is about 2,000 years ago, and the flood would have been about 4,300 years ago, something like that. But we're going back to the time of Jesus, and Jesus speaks in Matthew 24, 37 to 39. I want you to read that, John, if you will.
Sure, thank you. But as the days of Noah were, you also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying, giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark, and did not know until the flood came and took them all away, so also will the coming of the Son be. That's incredible prophecy.
Yeah, the coming of the Son of Man be. So Jesus is saying here, what happened in the days of Noah is very pertinent to us who are living here right now, John, in 2025. It's pertinent to us because what happened then is going to be similar in terms of the surprise, in terms of the actual event of the second coming. Jesus is going to return, but he's not going to return with a flood of water. That it'll be with a flood of fire this time around. But he's saying, just as Noah needed to prepare for the literal flood back in the day, we need to prepare for the second coming. So let's go back to Genesis. And the flood is recorded there. The story of the flood is really recorded from chapter 6 through chapter 9, 4 chapters in the Bible that deal with the lead up to the flood, the building of the boat, the actual flood, the aftermath, and all of those things. So we're going to pick it up here in Genesis chapter 6, where the Bible really describes what the condition of the world was like just before the flood, and the reason why God told Noah that he was going to send a flood. And so you have a little bit of backstory from Genesis 6, verses 1 to 8, and then from verse 9 onwards, it will talk about Noah's situation, his family, and the other details. So we'll come back to that, John. When we come back after the break, we're going to take a music break. We're going to look at Genesis chapter 6, and we're going to look at verses 5 through 8, So if you've got your Bible, you might want to pick it up now, and we'll come back after the break.
Yeah, we're going to play some music. It's the band called We Are Messengers, and on this track is the artist Vince Gill, and the track is called Image of God.
I woke up with a broken heart in my chest. I couldn't sleep, couldn't get no rest. Weighed down by the heaviness of life. And I try to shake it, flipping through my phone, but all it does is make me feel more alone. How could anything that feels so wrong be right? And 7 billion voices separate us, but only one can show us who we are. We are made in the image of, made in the image of God. A beautiful shades of love. We are made in the image of, made in the image of God. That's where the light comes from, yeah, yeah. We all need the same medicine. We all need another second chance. There's no first in line at the foot of the cross. That's where the light comes from. We fall apart, we all lose sight of heaven, but still your love is chasing us. And oh, give me a heart for every heart that's breaking, and give me eyes to see we're so much more than flesh and blood, 'cause we are made in the image of, made in the image of God. Yeah, yeah, 'cause we are made in the image of, made in the image of God. Beautiful shades of love, and we are made in the image of, made in the image of God. 'Cause that's where the light comes from, yeah, yeah. Made in the image of, made in the image of God. 'Cause that's where the light comes from, yeah.
Good track there. You're listening to A Light in the Dark on Faith FM. I'm John Weeks and Peter Watts here, and we're talking about part 4 of our Did We Really Involve? And we're focusing on the flood, Noah's flood. What do you got there, Peter?
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit about what the Bible says about the flood. And, you know, even before we dive in there, John, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how the flood is a popular phenomenon. You know, there might be people who have never read the Bible, maybe not even believe in God, but most people have heard of the story of Noah of the flood.
I think so.
You know?
Yep.
I mean, there have been movies. There was a movie with Russell Crowe in it called Noah that bore no resemblance to...
No, it was a bit of a science fiction, really.
Well, it was very different to the story we have in the Bible.
Absolutely.
And I think the biggest deal for me is the way in which it kind of misrepresents God and misrepresents the character of God. And then, you know, even Big Brother, they had back in 2014, it says a storm is coming. It was on Channel 9, Big Brother, and the Big Brother house is pictured as an ark, and everybody's going in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I remember seeing that, and then I've seen documentaries on BBC, Joanna Lumley, The Search for Noah's Ark.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you saw that one a few years ago. When I was in Tamworth, I did some meetings there and programs there, and there was Noah's Mini Storage, which was a storage facility with the Noah's Ark on the front. In Toronto, New South Wales, I lived not far from there. They had Noah's Rainbow Plumbing Services.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then if you go to Officeworks not far down the road, John, there's a poster on the wall there, and it'll advertise, different printing that you can get. It's got a whole bunch of animals on the front of this book or whatever that you can get printed. It's got Noah as the name. And so Noah and the flood is one of those stories that a lot of people have heard about, even if they've never read the Bible. And what we want to do is, John, let's take a look at Genesis. We said we would go and look at Genesis chapter 6. We're going to look at verses 5 through 8. If you'd like to read that,
Yeah, sure.
that would be great.
Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, I will destroy man, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping thing, and the birds of the air, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord.
All right. So God created, this is an interesting passage, John, because God created human beings to be a reflection of him. He made them in his own image. He wanted to pour love into them, and he wanted to receive love from them in a reciprocal relationship. He wanted them to love one another. He wanted them to love the creation he'd made. And love was the basis of the relationship that he had made. And, if you ask people today if people choose to have children, why do they choose to have children? Usually it's because they want to pour their love into that child. When the child is born, it can't do much, John. Can't do much for you. Can't mow your lawn or take the bins out or, go out and earn a living. It costs a lot of money to raise a child. You have to invest. You have to do everything for them. You have to feed them, put them to bed, change their nappy, all of these things.
Yep.
They can't do much for you, but people have children because they love being able to see something that was made in their own image. They love to be able to pour their love into that child. And then hopefully as the child grows, the hope is that child will realize how much love they ought to have for their loving parent.
And with all that love, they provide all the needs for that young child.
They provide everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's a brilliant lesson God gave us about who God is. I always say this, that when we had our son, our first child, that you learn a lot about God, because suddenly you are responsible for this little human being who is helpless without you. Totally helpless. It's not like, some creatures in the wild, they give birth and they're out and about and they're walking and off they go and, they can just about make it. Not with humans. No. You give birth to a baby, leave them out in the field, they will die of exposure, they'll die to predators, they can't look after themselves.
That's it.
And so I think that God has created it all that way so that we learn a little bit what it's like to be God, to be the provider, the carer for that child. And this is what God was doing with Adam and Eve. They were not babies. They were created as adults, but they chose a path that was a path away from God, not what God intended. He wanted them to live in paradise, but that ended when they rebelled against God and chose a different path. And that path ends up here. It says here that verse 5 of Genesis 6, the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually.
Yeah.
That's a bleak picture, John. That's a dark picture.
It is.
And, something had to be done. And God said that he will send a flood. But in verse 8, it says, but Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Now, I wonder why Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Was God playing favourites? Did God say, well, I like him, but I don't like the rest of them?
God doesn't do favourites.
Or was God could see in Noah that he actually wanted to live a life that was not running with the crowd, as it were, not running in the same direction that the world was going in that instance. If you drop down to verse 11, John, Genesis 11, we'll read through to 14, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. The earth also was corrupt before.
Sorry, let me just correct my reference. I think I said Genesis 11. It's Genesis 6, verses 11 to 14. Go ahead, John.
Genesis 6, what verses? Sorry.
11 to 14.
11 to 14, got it here. The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. So God looked upon the earth, and indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood, make rooms in the ark, and cover it inside and outside with pitch.
I remember, I think it was the early 2000s, John, there was a film called Bruce Almighty. And it was the idea that what would it be like to be God for a week? And then they followed that up with another film called Evan Almighty. And I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I haven't. I'm aware of it.
Evan Almighty. And it was that he gets a message with this 6:14 on it. And it's Genesis 6:14, go and make an ark.
Oh, that was a good pickup.
Yeah, and it was 6:14. And so it was a, modern day a comedy film.
Yeah.
But the idea that God would want a man to build an ark. And so God tells him to build this ark. And he actually gives some details here. In verse 15, it says, and this is how you shall make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. And let me tell you what that means, John. 300 cubits long, so that's 140 metres long.
That's quite big.
50 cubits wide, did it say? What does it say there? Yeah, 50 cubits wide. And that is 23 metres. And 30 cubits high, that is 13.5 metres. And so this is a huge vessel, okay? This is something like a oil tanker or a shipping container, something like that. This is the kind of dimensions that are being used here.
It's quite specific, isn't it?
It's very specific. Well, this is the thing. It's like we're not guessing what size the ark is. And that's important because I'm going to come to a few objections that people may raise after the next break. We're going to take another music break.
Yep.
But when we come back, people will ask questions like, well, the ark wasn't big enough, or there were too many animals, or it was a local flood, all of those things.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to that.
We will indeed. We're going to play some music now, a band called True North, and the track is called Master of the Wind. And also keep in mind our text line, 0488 880 831. Love to get feedback, any questions you may have. You're listening to Light in the Dark on Faith FM.
Troubled sea, ever there's a wind in my sail, but I have a friend who watches over me when the breeze turns into a gale. I know the master of the sunshine again. I know the master of the wind. an unexpected storm may drive me from the heights. It may bring me low, but it cannot bring me down. I know the master of the wind. I know the maker of the rain. He can calm the storm and make the sun shine again. I know the master of the wind. I know the master of the wind. I know the maker of the rain. He can calm the storm and make the sun shine again. I know the master of the wind. I know the master of the wind. I know the maker of the rain. He can calm the storm and make the sun shine again. I know the master of the wind. Oh, let Jesus calm your storm and let the sun shine again. He is the master of the wind.
Nice track there. That was by True North, and you probably guessed the title of the song, Master of the Wind. You're listening to A Light in the Dark on Faith FM, and we're continuing our topic, Did We Really Evolve? And we're focusing on the flood, Noah's flood. Peter. Oh, before we do, actually, let me mention our book offer. We've got a book offer, Genesis and Science, and the Where is the Evidence Going? It's written by Leonard Brown. It's about $29.95. If you want a copy, it's a free offer, by the way, no obligation. All you have to do is send a text to this line, 0488 880 831. Again, 0488 880 831. You got to have to put the code ALD72. It's very simple, and we get our team to organise that book to be sent out to you, Peter.
Yeah, so John, we were talking about the fact that God was sending a flood and that he instructed Noah to build the ark. And by the way, it gives us in Genesis 6, it tells us that God says, my spirit will not strive with man forever, and he gave him 120 years. So I want people to understand that Noah is building a boat. In the New Testament, it calls Noah a preacher of righteousness. So Noah wasn't just building a boat, he was preaching. And he's probably preaching, there's going to be a flood, help me build the boat. Yep. You know, and the importance of that is that his lifestyle, the building of that boat, demonstrated that he believed what he was saying. He wasn't just saying there's going to be a flood. He's saying there's going to be a flood. I'm building a boat. You need to help me build the boat and get on board. And there was plenty of room for people, John. But I think that, when he's saying that he wants him to build the boat, and we've already seen the dimensions, why give specifics like that, John? If this was a fairy story, why give the specifics of the dimensions of the ark and the details? And he tells him to take 2 of every clean animal, 7 of every clean animal and 2 of every unclean animal into the ark. And we could explain about clean and unclean. If you want to know about what does a clean animal and what does an unclean animal look like, look at Leviticus 11. Read that chapter. It'll tell you what clean animals and unclean animals are. And God said, take 7 of the clean, 7 of each clean animal, and 2 of every unclean animal into the ark. And I'm sure some people have heard the song, The Animals Went in 2 by 2. Hurrah, hurrah. I heard that when I was a kid.
I never made that connection.
I heard that song when I was a kid.
Yep.
That's another thing that most people know, that the animals went in 2 by 2. And as you mentioned, we mentioned off air, John, you mentioned that there are more than 300 cultures around the world that have a flood story in their cultural history.
Yeah.
And that is quite remarkable. We're talking from, North America, Central America, Europe, Africa, Asia, even in Australia, the Aboriginal stories have the flood as well. And so all of that indicates to me that there was a common culture at one time. And it points back to this Noah's flood. Now, of course, people who doubt Noah's flood might ask questions. They might say, well, it's a fairy story. Sometimes you see illustrations of a little boat with a giraffe sticking out the window or whatever.
Yep.
The ark was an enormous vessel. Like I said before, more in the range of a container ship or an oil tanker or something like that in terms of its dimensions. And by the way, those ships are designed to be very stable. And the ark, the dimensions of the ark demonstrate that it would have been a very stable boat. And of course, it didn't have a sail. It wasn't going anywhere, John. It was meant to just float on the face of the waters, and then it would settle when the waters came back down. The Bible says it would rain for 40 days and 40 nights, but the Bible also said that the first thing that happened was that the fountains of the deep broke forth. And in other words, the water came up from beneath before the rain fell.
Now, that's interesting because I've read scientific reports where they're now discovering lots of underground areas that have massive amounts of water.
Oh, yes. I mean, even today, there are places where you can you can see that there is water under the earth.
And I'm not talking about oceans here.
No. There's we have the water table. You dig down, you find the water table.
Yep.
Then, of course, you've got things like the Great Artesian Basin, or the Artesian waters up north in Australia, where there is water under the ground, and it comes up, and springs. You've got springs.
That's right.
So there's always been water under the ground, and there is still water under the ground. And then, of course, we know what rain can do and contribute to flooding. Because even today, John, I was looking at the news, I think it was 3 different stories about floods in different parts of the world.
Particularly in the US of A.
Absolutely. And in India. And one in Africa I just read about as well. So there's floods in lots of places where you have torrents of rain, you have floods. Now, this is rain for what, a few hours, maybe a couple of days, maybe a few days. We're talking 40 days and 40 nights of rain.
That's massive.
Let's read Genesis 7, verse 11 and 12.
Okay, Genesis 7.
Genesis 7, 11 and 12, because this talks about the beginning of the flood.
Okay, let's look at 11 and 12 here. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, on that day all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were open, and the rain on the earth 40 days and 40 nights.
Okay, we'll stop there.
Yep.
So you can see that there's water coming up from the ground, there's water coming down from the sky, and it flooded the earth. And the Bible says that the waters were on the face of the earth for 150 days, John. Another section of the Bible tells us that. I just want to go back for a moment where I was talking about the fact that in Genesis 6 it says that it would be 120 years until the flood. Noah had 120 years to build the boat with his sons, and he probably got help from others who may have died prior to the flood. We know that Methuselah died just before the flood occurred. So he would build the flood, but he was also a preacher of righteousness. And my point there was not only did Noah find grace in the sight of God, but Noah was communicating that grace to others. And so sometimes people think of the flood, how knee-jerk reaction, God decides to flood the world. No. 120 years. Not 120 minutes, John. Not 120 days. But 120 years that God is giving the human race to prepare. And, I think that the same is true. The idea that Jesus is coming soon, that message has been preached for over 100 years around the globe. Jesus Christ is coming back. And God is giving people plenty of time to prepare for that event.
Exactly, because if Noah was building the ark for 120 years, by implication, that's warning others.
Absolutely. Why is God giving us 120? Why didn't he just say, Noah, go build your boat. I'll save you and your family. Forget the rest.
Yeah.
Not at all. The fact that Noah is a preacher of righteousness, the fact that he is building a boat that's enormous, and the fact that God wants the people to be warned indicates that he wants them to be saved.
Yeah.
He wants them to turn to him.
In fact, in 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 5, the New Testament verse calls Noah a preacher of righteousness.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, we've said before that some people regard, Noah's Ark as a fairy tale with this little boat and what have you. No, it was an enormous boat. We've already said it was 140 metres long. People will say, oh, well, there's too many animals. You couldn't get all the animals on the ark. And I think that sometimes people overestimate the number of animals. Do people have a clue as to how many animals that would have needed to go on Noah's Ark? It's been calculated by the team at Answers in Genesis, and they have suggested a number of 6,744 individual animals based on the description of land-dwelling, air-breathing creatures, air-breathing animals that, 7 of the clean and 2 of every unclean animal, and they've come up with the number 6,744. We often think about the fact that, Noah would only have taken 2 dogs on the ark. He wouldn't have taken 2 poodles, 2 Labradors, 2 fox terriers, it doesn't have to take every breed of dog on the ark. He just has to take 2 dogs because of all of our modern dogs, John.
Yep.
They're all canines. They're all of the dog family. They can all interbreed, and they're all dogs, and they've all originated from a pair of dogs once upon a time, which were probably more like wolves.
All right. Well, Peter, being an Australian, sometimes I hear Australians say, well, what about kangaroos and platypuses and that sort of thing? Were they on the ark?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the question I get asked.
Yeah, for sure. So you have the reason you have isolation of certain animals. So ever since Noah's flood, when the animals came off the ark, ever since Noah's flood, people have taken journeys on boats and people have come to Australia. Obviously, how did the Aborigines get to Australia?
Yeah.
Nobody I know believes the Aborigines evolved in Australia all on their own. They came across the sea. And when you go across the sea, you will take your pets with them. How is it, John, that we have rabbits in Australia?
Yeah, well, that was yes, a lot of rabbits.
Rabbits didn't arise in Australia.
No, they didn't.
They were in Europe. That's half a world away, John. Are you telling me that the rabbits swam from England to... No, they didn't swim. They came on boats.
Like foxes.
Yeah. Well, horses, sheep, cattle, all of them, they came from Europe to here. Because we brought them, as in people brought them. And so, it's not difficult to see how different animals got to different parts of the world.
Yep.
And probably, in the past, John, we don't think of this. Australia probably had a land bridge, from here to New Guinea, or New Guinea may have had a land bridge from there to Indonesia in the past. Because the continents have moved, the plates have moved. Now, of course, from a geological perspective, they would say, well, that took many, 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 many millions of years and what have you. But we've seen already, when we've talked about geology and the fossils, that things can be done a lot more rapidly than is imagined.
Yeah.
And, we recently had a major earthquake in eastern Russia. Catastrophic events can make changes. When we had the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami, that earthquake that caused that tsunami moved islands out of their place.
Well, even the Russian earthquake is now sparking off their volcano over there.
So there are catastrophic events that can make a major difference.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll come back to the animals and the ark after our next music break, John.
Indeed. Don't forget our text line 0488 880 831 if you want the book Genesis and Science, Where the Evidence is Going. Text in that number and put ALD 72.
Sometimes his eyes were gentle and filled with laughter. Sometimes they cried. Sometimes there was a fire of holy anger in Jesus' eyes. But the eyes that saw hope in the hopeless, that saw through the fall to the need, are the same eyes that look down from heaven into the deepest part of you and me. And his eyes are always upon us. His eyes never close in sleep. And no matter where you go, you will always be in his eyes. In his eyes. Sometimes his voice comes calling like rolling thunder or like driving rain. And sometimes his voice is quiet and we start to wonder if he knows our pain. But he who spoke peace to the water cares more for our hearts than the waves. And the voice that once said, "You're forgiven," still says, "You're forgiven today, today." Sometimes I look above me and stars are shining and I feel so small. How could the God of heaven and all creation know I'm here at all? But then in the silence he whispers, "My child, I created you too. And you're my most precious creation. I even gave my son for you." And his eyes are always upon us. His eyes never close in sleep. And no matter where you go, you'll always be in his eyes. No matter where you go, you'll always be in his eyes. Sometimes his eyes were gentle and filled with laughter.
That was by the band The Rochesters in a track called His Eyes. You're listening to A Light in the Dark on Faith FM. I'm John Weeks. Peter's, well, before I bring Peter back on, let's talk about the book offer, the special free offer, no obligation. Genesis and Signs, Where the Evidence is Going, written by Leonard Brand. If you want a copy of this, we'd love to send it out to you, but you've got to text us. The text line 0488 880 831, and you got to put the code ALD72. And thank you, Sadhu, who also requested that book just a few minutes ago. So thank you.
Terrific.
I hope you enjoy the book when it finally gets out to you. Peter.
All right, so we've talked about the flood. We're talking about the flood, and Noah was on board the ark. Noah and his sons and their wives. So that was 8 people.
Yeah,
John, 8 people. I don't know how many people were in the world at that time.
No.
But I would imagine millions. By the way, that they used to have large families, and they lived a long, long time. The average age, John, before the flood, the average age of people recorded, the average age is 912. That's a long time.
That's a long time.
That you can have a lot of kids in 900 years.
That's just under a millennium.
That's right. And so, yeah, there would have been a lot of people, but it's such a shocking statistic, really, when you think that only 8 people got on the ark, especially after 820 years of them spreading the message and building the ark. You know, some people have said, well, you know, what if a lot of people had responded, they wouldn't have had enough room on the ark. Well, we could build 2 boats. You know, I mean, like, you just build some more boats.
Yeah.
You know, it's the bottom line is, God was right when he said that people, their minds were only evil continually. There was violence on the earth, and that was demonstrated by the fact that they didn't believe Noah's message. And so some would say, well, we've said before, the ark's not big enough. We know how big the ark was. God given us the dimensions. Too many animals. Well, maybe there's fewer animals need to go on the ark than you think. They'd only need 7 cows, 2 horses, 2 pigs, you know, 2 dogs, 2 cats. That, you know, we think of all the cats. You think of the cat family. You've got domestic cats, and then you've got lions and tigers and all of, you know, some of those are all in the same family.
So how do you feed them? Because they would have to have special food, wouldn't they? So
I don't know if you ever saw this, John, but there was a lioness that was kept at a zoo that was a vegetarian. So it's entirely possible. We know that the original diet of man and the animals from Genesis 1 was vegetarian.
That's right.
So first of all, I want to understand that there is the practicalities of building the boat and caring for all the animals. But then there's also God.
God, that's it.
There is a God element in all of this that we can't ignore. It's God who told them to build the boat. They didn't survive the flood because they built a really sturdy boat. They built the boat according to God's plan, and God protected that boat. Have you ever heard of hibernation? Some animals are able to go to sleep for long periods. Like bears. Some animals may have hibernated for a long period of time. They took food stocks on board the boat for animals and people. This was not a luxury cruiser, John. This is not, let's cruise the Mediterranean.
It's pretty rough.
You know, this is a rescue boat.
Yes.
You know, this is an emergency. This is life or death. Get on board. You know, life on board the boat would not have been necessarily pleasant.
Yeah.
But life outside the boat was worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so I think that that's important. Some have said, oh, well, maybe it was only a local flood. Well, why build a boat? Just go to higher ground.
Yep.
You know, why are the flood stories all over the globe from cultures, you know, that are vastly separated? How did they get that flood story if it's a local flood?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
And some have said, well, you know, yeah, you're going to get elephants and giraffes on there. What? I'm sure Noah would have taken young animals.
Yeah.
And we can even talk about the dinosaurs because, you know, each dinosaur only hatched out of an egg. So you could have even had dinosaurs on there. But we'll come to that when we talk about dinosaurs next week, John. Well, the week after. Next.
Yep.
The week after next. I don't know how you got to the studio, John, but I drove here and that used petrol, which is a fossil fuel.
Yep.
And I'm looking up and we've got lights here in the studio, John, not to mention the electricity running the microphones.
Everything.
Where's that electricity coming from? Well, it's come from power plants that are usually fueled by coal. And these, again, are fossil fuels. Mm-hmm. And, you know, coal, oil, gas, where did it all come from? It's come from I believe most of it, much of it, not all of it perhaps, but most of it has come from the flood. We've talked about fossils, which is the vast burial of living things that have now turned into mineral. But then you have, you know, huge deposits of vegetation that is then compressed, buried deep in the earth, turns into coal, oil and gas.
Yeah.
And that's why they call them fossil fuels. You know, this is not something I'm making up. And so where did those things come from? I believe they came from the flood. We have this evidence all over the globe, John. Coal mining, you know, in various continents across the globe. And all of this points to the Genesis story. I do want to give a plug here, actually. There are a couple of websites that people might find helpful. If people are wondering about creation, evolution, the flood, is it, you know, is it real? Is it reliable? I want to suggest that they go to websites like creation.com. which has thousands of articles on creation, evolution-related topics that will be very helpful to them. Answers in Genesis, another website that people can go to and find lots of good information that will be helpful to them. It doesn't mean to say I think that they've got everything right in every respect, but there's a lot of very sound information there that will be helpful for people, as it was to me, making the transition from being an atheist who didn't believe in God to believing a believer in the God of the Bible and believing the biblical record of the creation, the fall, and the flood. And I think that will be helpful for people.
Oh, you you need those resources. If you want to find out what the answers are, you got to dig deep.
You do,
and by going to some of the resources, you're able to then, use a lot of discernment, but certainly look where the truth is, the evidence.
Take a look at that. Yeah. I think obviously the truth is in the Bible, but we can discern other details. I've said before that the conversation with regard to creation and evolution is not about God versus science, because
that's right.
We want to explore the world around us. We use scientific methods to do that. And we're exploring what we can find in the present. But the present is also telling us something about the past. And I believe it was a catastrophic past, John. The flood was a catastrophe that we've never seen before. You see on the news, the devastation caused by local flooding after a few hours or a few days of rain. This is a global flood. The Bible even tells us that the mountains of the earth were covered with 15 cubits of water. And we said last week when we talked about fossils, how can we find marine fossils on the mountain ranges of the world? What are they doing up there? Geologists know that once those areas were underwater, they would believe that those ranges have been pushed up as we do. Only the time scale is different. We think those ranges could have been formed more rapidly. They believe it took millions of years. And again, we've talked about the time of those things.
And the other thing about tsunamis, look at the devastation and the impact that even tsunamis. Look what happened in Japan.
Absolutely.
Places like that.
Yeah.
It's incredible how much water can make an impact.
Water is very powerful.
Very powerful. It's like a brick wall hitting you.
Yeah. Well, that's right. I mean, if you've ever jumped into a pool and got your dive wrong and you do a belly flop, you know how hard the water can be, much less if you're doing it from a high dive board.
Indeed.
But yes, so water can be very devastating. We see it often these days. There are a lot of local floods these days, but this was a global flood, and we see the evidence of it globally. We see sedimentary deposits all over the globe. We see fossils laid down by water all over the globe, and we see coal seams and gas deposits and oil deposits in various places across the globe, and we believe that the majority of this was laid down by the flood. You come to the end of the flood. The flood lasted just over a year, John. Well, when I say the flood, so Noah, when he went into the ark, the Bible actually is specific. It gives us the dates on which Noah entered the ark and on the day he opened the door. And so it's about a year and 10 days on a biblical scale. And that he was inside the ark. First they released a couple of birds, to find out, if there was any dry land out there. And the ark came to rest, the Bible says, on the mountains of Ararat. Doesn't mention a single mountain. It's on the mountains of Ararat. And it's believed that is in far eastern Turkey, on the border. I think it's with Armenia, on the border there, very near that border, but it's in Turkey. And so, we kind of know where the ark landed. And then
have anyone found it?
There have been so many rumours, John, in my lifetime about them finding Noah's Ark. And what's interesting to me is people like Answers in Genesis and other creation ministries, they are not convinced that it's been found, and they are people who would love to find it, right? I mean, I would love to find it, but they're not convinced that it's been found. And who says it would be, John? It was made of wood. When they came off the ark, they might have stripped that place for wood to use for other buildings and other materials. It's not necessarily going to be still there. It could have rotted away.
After all that period of time.
After that period of time. So there's no guarantee we would find it. And we don't have to find it for it to prove that it existed, because I think we see the evidence of the flood all around the world anyway.
We got a great message here, text message. Another one just popped up. Amazing how much the people have in their minds and put to us. Very quickly, Paula said, it's a long text here, but I'll just do a short thing here. She says, the winds will blow upon it, this is the ark, and the rain will beat against it, but with no effect. When we connect with God, nothing can separate us from God's love and the atonement. When we think of the ark, think of the covenant of the ark. It is an atonement. And it's a beautiful text message, and I'll share that with you later,
Absolutely.
Peter. And another one from John Gosney. Thank you, John. And I'll forward that on to, great text message. So I'll forward that on to Peter as well. So thank you. We'll look at that very closely. Thank you.
So as I said, if you want to read about it in Genesis 6, 7, 8 and 9, that's where you find the information about the flood. You come to Genesis 9, the ark comes to rest, the door of the ark is opened, they come out of the ark, and interestingly enough, it says here in Genesis 9:12, it says, "And God said, this is the sign of the covenant which I will make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I set my rainbow in the cloud, and it shall be for the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. And it shall be when I bring a cloud over the earth, and the rainbow shall be seen in the cloud, and I will remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. The waters shall never again become a flood to destroy the earth." And so the rainbow was put there, John, at the end of the flood as a sign that God will never flood the world again. And I remember seeing a rainbow that was part of my conversion story. God got my attention through a rainbow after a conversation about that. So that's our story for today, John. It's been a pleasure being on A Light in the Dark with you.
No, you won't be here next week.
But you will be, John.
I will be here. Yep.
So it'll be in John's hands next week. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for the text messages, and we'll be back 11 o'clock next week. Thank you. Take care. Bye.